Today, we're diving deep into the visual language of film. We're going to tackle one of the most important concepts you'll ever learn in cinema, and that is mise-en-scène. It's kind of like the secret language filmmakers use to tell stories, build these incredible worlds, and really shape how we feel, all before a single character even says a word. So to get us started, I've got a little puzzle for you. What is a film's first line of dialogue? Seriously, think about it for a second. Before anyone speaks, before we hear a narrator, what's the very first thing that tells us about the scene, the mood, the whole vibe of the story? The answer, as you might guess, isn't a word. Nope, it's the image itself. The very first thing a film says to us is what it shows us. And there's a name for this whole intentional, super carefully crafted visual world. It's called mise-en-scène. Now, it's a French term, sounds a little fancy, but all it means is putting into the scene. And it's everything. Everything you see on screen, the set, props, the lighting, costumes, makeup, how the actors are placed. It is the entire visual universe of the film, all wrapped up in one concept. Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off with what mise-en-scène actually is. Then we'll break down how filmmakers build the world, trust the characters, use light, and stage the action. And then, for the grand finale, we'll put it all together and analyze a simple, amazing shot from a classic film. All right, section 1. What is mise-en-scène? Really, at its heart, it's the art of intentional design. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's this. In a well-made film, absolutely nothing you see is there by accident. I mean it. Everything in that frame is a choice. The color of a wall, that little object sitting on a table in the background, it's all been chosen. Filmmakers use mise-en-scène to tell the story with pictures, right? They're communicating ideas, themes, what a character is all about, in ways that words just can't. It's a classic rule, show, don't just tell. So let's start with the first big piece of the puzzle, building the world. We're talking about the setting and the props. This is the actual physical space of the story. The world these characters live in. It's the foundation for everything else. Right off the bat, a director has to make a huge choice. Where are we going to shoot this thing? You could go with a soundstage. This gives you total creative control. You can build anything, like that amazing circular hotel lobby in Grand Hotel, or you could shoot on location in a real place. This brings a sense of authenticity, of realism, like the chaotic streets of Berlin and Run, Roller, Run. And each choice you can see creates a totally different feeling, a completely different vibe. So what all these sets do is establish the film's milieu. That's just a word for the specific time and place, the social and physical world of the story. For example, just look at the sets in The Age of Innocence. All that fancy detailed stuff instantly tells you about the strict, suffocating rules of 19th century New York high society. Then you have something totally different, like Harry Potter. Those incredible magical sets immediately tell you, okay, we're in a world where magic is real. The set is really our first clue to understanding the rules of the world we've just entered. And of course, inside these sets are the props. And these are not just background junk. These are objects with a purpose. They're active tools for storytelling. Sometimes a prop can be a great gag, like that exploding pool ball in Sherlock Jr. Other times, it's a huge plot point, like the sister's earring in Sex, Lies, and Videotape that blows the whole story open. And sometimes props can tell a whole story without a single word being spoken. The opening of The Big Heap is a perfect example. We see a gun, a badge, a letter. Boom. We know a dirty cop just killed himself, all from 3 objects. Okay, next up, dressing the part. We're talking costume, makeup, and hair. Think of it this way. If the sets build the world, then these things build the people who live in that world. So, let's take a look at how characters are designed from the outside in. A character's costume is basically their visual handshake. It's a kind of shorthand that tells us who this person is long before they say anything. I mean, look at this contrast right here. On one side, you've got the dude from The Big Lebowski, the baggy shorts, the dirty t-shirt. It just screams carefree slacker, right? Then you look at Julian from American Gigolo. Those perfectly tailored Armani suits, not a hair out of place. It communicates this polished, totally controlled persona. We get these guys instantly just from what they're wearing. And it's not just about a static look. Changes in costume, makeup, and hair are super powerful ways to show a character's transformation. A great example is in the movie Nikita. She starts out as this ragged, unkempt thief, but after she's trained to be a government assassin, she emerges as this incredibly sophisticated spy in a tailored blazer, curls, the whole thing. The outside transformation perfectly reflects what's happened to her on the inside. It's her whole character arc, right there, in her clothes. Now, let's talk about our third element, shaping with light. And let me tell you, light is one of the most powerful, most expressive tools a filmmaker has. It's not just about making sure you can see what's going on. No, light guides our eyes. It sculpts the world, and most importantly, it shapes how we feel about a scene. So, let's break down the classic foundational technique. It's called three-point lighting. It's kind of the standard Hollywood setup, and it uses three separate lights to really sculpt the character. First, you have your key light. That's your main, brightest light source. But that key light creates some pretty harsh shadows, right? So, in comes the fill light. It's a softer light that, you guessed it, fills in those shadows. And last, you have the backlight. You put this one behind the person to separate them from the background. It gives the image a sense of depth. Put them all together and you get that nice, balanced, clear look. Now, here's where it gets really cool. Adjusting the balance between these lights is exactly how filmmakers create mood. So, if your key and fill lights are pretty balanced, you get what's called high key lighting. It's bright, not a lot of shadows, and it creates this open, upbeat, accessible feeling. Think of the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network. But what if you crank up that key light and dial way back on the fill? Well, then you get low key lighting. Now we're talking deep, dramatic shadows, a feeling of tension, of mystery. This is that classic chiaroscuro look of gangster films like The Godfather, where what's hidden in the shadows is just as important as what's in the light. Okay, on to our final big component, staging the action. This is all about blocking and performance, because mise-en-scène isn't just about still life. It's not just about objects and light. It's about how the characters are positioned and how they move around inside that frame we've so carefully designed. So, blocking, which is basically just the choreographed movement of the actors, is never, ever random. It's an incredibly powerful way to show us the relationships between characters, the power dynamics at play. The next time you watch a movie, I want you to pay attention to this. Notice how people move. How close are they to each other? Who's in the foreground? Who's in the back? That physical space between them often says everything about their emotional connection. The love triangle in The Awful Truth is a perfect example of this. Their positions in the room literally map out who's winning and who's losing in the relationship. But sometimes blocking isn't really about what's realistic for the characters. It's more about creating a breathtaking visual composition. You see this in a film like Terrence Malick's Days of Heaven, where the workers are spread out across the prairie, almost becoming part of the landscape itself. Or look at Antonioni's La Ventura, where a whole crowd of men is staged in the way that just visually represents the main character's guilt and shame. In these cases, the people in the frame are being used as pure design elements to say something about the film's theme, not just about the characters themselves. Okay, so we've taken apart the engine, we've looked at all the pieces. Now for the really fun part, putting it all back together. We're going to do a little case study and see how every single one of these elements can work together in perfect harmony, all inside one single shot. And for this, we're turning to an absolute masterpiece, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Now, before we look at the shot, I want you to remember this chilling line from Norman Bates. He says, "We are all in our private traps." So, just hold that idea of the trap in your head as we break down what Hitchcock is showing us. Okay, take a look at this shot from Norman Bates' parlor. Just soak it in. Now let's read the frame. See how every single choice tells us something. The lighting is classic low-key, right? It literally splits his face in two, a massive hint about his dual personality. Then look at the props. Those stuffed birds, well, they aren't just creepy decorations, are they? No, they're a metaphor for his own predatory nature. And the blocking, he is physically squished into the corner of the room, a perfect visual of that trap he just told us about. And even his costume, that simple, boyish, open collar, suggests that he's emotionally stuck, that he never really grew up. Every single element is working together to tell us just how disturbed this character is without saying a thing. All right, so let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. Number 1, mise-en-scène is the art of telling stories with pictures. It really is the fundamental language of film. Number 2, everything you see in the frame is there on purpose. It's all a choice. And number 3, when you learn to analyze these choices, you start to understand movies on a whole other level. So your job as a film student is to go from being just a passive viewer to being an active noticer. And I'll leave you with this one final thought. The filmmaker has made all of these choices to shape what you see and feel. So the question for you is, what will you choose to see the next time you put on a movie? I challenge you, look closer. Start noticing the world that's been so carefully built for you, one frame at a time.